Hey, this is Kory Schweiss, coach of the Central Rebels, and you are watching Knuckleball Primetime.
Hi, and welcome to the Knuckleball Primetime live from the barn office. You got the mock here, and I'm joined online right now with Hall of Fame coach Kory Schweiss of the Central Rebels. Kory, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
I appreciate you joining us today. Appreciate you giving some time. I know you're busy, but let's just start with last year. You guys finished 6-5, where at times the Rebels had to kind of dig deep and fight through some adversity. Thinking about specifically those overtime wins. What were your takeaways from last year?
I thought last year was it was a good season for us. I mean, I think we even talked on your show before. We could have finished anywhere from having honestly probably 3 wins to 8 wins, and we ended up with six, and a couple of those obviously we'd have liked to had back, but we very easily could have lost a few of those as well. So six was probably a decent number for us. But the biggest thing about last year was we got a lot of guys, a lot of experience last year that are back this year. So I thought that Friday night that the experience that they gained last year played a big part in why we were pretty successful Friday night. And hopefully, we can continue to build on that and continue to, because I feel like these guys are still young, but they played probably, some of them were playing probably before they were ready last year. And, I think now with that year under their belt, I think they're vastly improved.
You returned some key players from last year, but you lost one really big one, right? And several to graduation, but with Jackson Jones, who played such a significant part of your not only offense but defense as well. And I know filling a player, filling that gap, filling that role that he was not only as a player but also as a leader, has other guys stepped up in that category?
Yeah, obviously when you lose a kid like that, that's pretty key to your last 3 years' success, really. He's always going to be hard to replace, but we've been talking like that for 15 years. That's just the nature of high school football. You're going to graduate good players, and you're going to have to replace them. And sometimes you replace them with kids that are young and not ready, and sometimes you can replace them with guys that like we did last year, got a lot of experience, and they're probably more ready this year than what they were last year. So yes, Jackson's going to be hard to replace, but at the same time, I think there were a lot of guys playing alongside Jackson last year, that quite maybe weren't quite ready, but now they are. And I think we're going to have more guys ready to play. We're not going to have a guy like Jackson Jones probably, but we're going to have a lot of guys that are closer to what Jackson was than what we had last year. So in losing him and replacing him, not with one person, but with a collective group that are more ready to play, I think that helps you fill that void.
You hear a lot of coaches talk about culture, and there are players that they can contribute while they're in school, but the culture even follows them even after they graduate because they set the expectation. And I think Jackson was maybe one of those. And I know his dad was back when he played back in the 40s or whenever that was, because I played with him. And he was definitely one of those guys where stayed around even after he was gone. Do you feel that that was the case?
Yeah, I mean, I can say that about Jackson, but I could say that about that group that was ahead of him that won the state championship, and actually the groups ahead of those guys that, I feel like our program has pretty much been consistent developing leaders and guys like Jackson. The expectations from a coaching staff obviously have passed down through the players, and now the expectation passes from players to players. And I think when you get that, I think that's when your program reaches kind of a higher level, and I think we've kind of gotten there. I think, it doesn't have to be us as coaching staff that gets the players to, perform up to expectations. I think the players, past players, and a lot of those guys are back on our staff right now. And, that, and then along with the expectations and of the program, I mean, I think it's, Jackson obviously was a big part of that last year, but we've had a lot of them come before Jackson, and Jackson would probably tell you the same thing, that those guys before him kind of set the way for him, and then he just kind of continued that process. And hopefully after this season, we'll have some seniors that pass on and carry and pass that on to the next group of guys.
Week one, your Rebels come out strong, 37-0 against Owensville. What stood out to you the most about your team's performance in week one?
Well, I'll say, out of all the wins that we've had over the years, I'd say our week one win was probably one of the most satisfying for me as a coach. And I say that because I know expectations probably aren't as high for our team this year. And, I've got a couple young coaches that have taken over play calling duties. For me, I haven't, this is the first time in 20, 24 years or something, I haven't called the offense, and Coach Jones isn't calling the defense anymore either. So we wanted to kind of pass the torch to these young coaches while we're still around, so we can help if they need it, and if they have questions, and bounce ideas off of them, and all those things while we're still here. And it was satisfying because I felt like not only the players but those young coaches really performed at a high level. Which makes me feel really good about leaving this program. When I decide to leave, I feel like it's going to be in good hands, and I take a lot of pride in that. This program was not very good when I took over. I know Coach Gatto did a decent job getting it from where it was in the 90s to where I took over in 2004, but I think we've taken another step, and I think that it will continue seeing what I saw on Friday night.
Let's talk about your young quarterback, Brody Pigg. What did you see from him in week one, and how has he grown into that role for your team?
Well, he played really well. He and Braden Patterson battled it out this summer. Braden being a senior and Brody being a sophomore, it was kind of like if they're kind of even, kind of almost want to go with the sophomore, get him that experience. We were able to get Braden quite a few reps on Friday as well. So, but Brody played well. He threw for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, didn't turn it over, which is at the quarterback position is a big thing. And he rushed for a touchdown and also had a 2-point conversion run. So, played well. Anytime you can throw for two, run for one, and have a 2-point conversion run and not turn it over at that position in your first varsity start, that's pretty good. So, Brody can obviously get better. I mean, he's got a long way to go before he's up there with some of the quarterbacks we've had in the past 10 years. But he's young and he's athletic, and he's really taken to the coaching well. And I think he projects to be pretty good down the road for sure. And it was a very good start for him.
Karris Foster showed some big playmaking ability last year with a lot of shiftiness, and he was hard to tackle. How has he developed with another year in your program?
He had a good evening. We probably didn't give him the ball as much as we'd have liked, but I think he had 4 catches for 80 something yards and a touchdown. Also had a couple carries. So we just have to find ways to get him the football. I think good things will happen when he's got the ball. He also starts on defense for us, plays safety, and had a really good night on that side of the ball as well. So, I think Karris, being a junior this year, expectations are going to be pretty high for him to be a pretty big playmaker for us. And August Black's another one that, played some as a freshman last year, and he started running back for us the other night and ran for 200 yards and had a touchdown, and actually had 2 more called back. So, those guys are young, just like Brody. It projects well for the future, but I also think those guys will get better each week this year too, because usually when they're young like that, there's still stuff every week that it seems like they're learning, and they're going to get better. And hopefully by the end of the season, when it comes district time, we'll be a lot better.
Let's talk week two. Blue Jays, you know them well. They're coming off their own dominant win with a 52-7 win. Both of you guys with week one dominant wins. Is there a lot of takeaway, or is there a little bit of the unknown still of you don't know exactly who you are and you don't really know what to expect from the Blue Jays with such a dominant win?
Well, we did play them last year, and both of us, brought a lot back. So there's going to be some familiarity with what they have and their personnel. Watching them on film, I remember watching them on film last year thinking that they were really good, and knowing that Priory probably wasn't a great opponent. And I was really concerned going into that game. We handled them decently well last year, but I also think that our week two game might have been our best game of the year last year. We played really well that game, didn't make many mistakes. But Jefferson, they've got good line play. They've got good skill players, and they play really hard. And when you combine those three things together, it's going to make for a rough night. And we're going to have to play really well, similar to how we played last year in week two, in order to have a chance and be competitive against them. I think going into this game, it's probably a coin toss, and it's probably going to be whoever plays better on Friday.
Jefferson's offense seems to run through quarterback Cooper Frisk, number 9. And I say quarterback, he's on the field at all times, even playing receiver at times, plays defense. He's also on special teams. How important is it for you guys to key in on where he is on the field and account for him at all times?
Well, I mean, we know that he's probably their main guy when it comes to, scoring their points, doing what they need to do to move the ball on offense. He's a stud on defense. Like you said, he's out there all the time. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have to know where he's at, know what he's doing. But you can't be so consumed with him that you don't do your team job. Our defense is like a puzzle, and if you take some piece out of the puzzle, it just doesn't work as well. So yeah, we got to know where he's at, what they like to do, when he's in certain places, and have that in our minds. But we still got to take care of our job. Now, our jobs may change depending on where he's at, obviously. But that's stuff that we're going to have to figure out this week in practice, and then come game time, be able to execute the plan. And he'll be a big part of that plan, obviously, in the preparation. And hopefully, we'll be able to contain him.
They have a couple of brothers on defense that seem to find the run-through lanes pretty well. One's at linebacker. I think maybe the other one's at a nickel or a safety, walk-down safety. And they run an odd front, so they can walk some guys up at times, it seems like. How important will it be for your offensive line and the backs to account for the front and the walk-ups and understanding where their blocking assignments are?
Well, obviously that's important. I think it's important no matter what the front is, but in the odd front, there's more play obviously available to them because you got more guys off the ball than you would in the even front. So definitely communication is huge amongst those guys up front and the back. Our guys are used to, we've been going against an odd front a lot in practice. We expected Owensville to play an odd front most of the summer, so we had been prepping for that a lot. But yeah, it definitely has its disadvantages when you don't know where guys are always going to be, because as an offensive lineman, it's way easier to get your assignments done when you know where the guys are at. So that'll be an issue, but I think our guys up front are really smart. They do a good job communicating, so hopefully we'll be able to execute. They've got a guy up front, their nose tackle, looks like he's squats over 600, benches over 400. So
he's a big boy.
Yeah, we're going to have our hands full. So we've been making some plans for that as well. And so hopefully our plan pays off.
Let's talk about the trenches. I know you returned Dakota Bowers, which is a big player for you guys. Talk about some of the other guys on the line and how they have gelled so far.
Yeah, I'm pleased with our offensive line. I think, we're 7-8 deep up there. I feel like we could play 7 or 8 different offensive linemen and probably be okay, which isn't always the case at the varsity level. A lot of times you got to use those JV games to get those guys ready. But I feel like, Dakota Bowers, obviously being a senior, is there and back. But Silas Richardson's been playing up there now a couple years. Keegan Sherrill is ready to play in a full-time role. And then we've got other guys like Chandler Liebarger started at center the other night, played fairly well. Evan Schaefer at that other guard spot, sophomore that can get the job done. Those guys are going to be vying for platooning or playing time, pretty much all year. And then Abel Mills is another solid offensive lineman for us that'll probably start all year. And he's been, all these guys are going to play on both sides of the ball. They'll probably rotate a little bit more on defense, but it looks really good for our offensive line play.
Huge moment for the program recently. Former Rebel and state champion Jobe Bryant not only makes the SEMO Redhawks team as a walk-on, but ends up with a full scholarship, earning a full scholarship. And I know you were there for that. What does that mean to you? What does it mean? I know his family and you guys are very tight. So if you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I was, I was kind of pleased. Jobe was one of those kids I always thought that didn't get a fair shot. Like, I felt like he did everything he could at the high school level in basketball and football. I mean, can't do much more in football when you go out as a state champion and score 6 touchdowns in the state championship game. I thought for sure he would get some quality offers after that, and the offers never came. And the more coaches I talked to, it was just crazy how they would always find stuff that just measurables that weren't good enough or whatever. And my thing with Jobe is, it's not necessarily the measurables. It's more, you just got to watch it. I mean, he does things that you just, you can't measure. And being a great teammate's utmost important too. And he was awesome. And he went down to Lynx Academy and did the basketball thing, and he never really got many offers basketball wise that he really liked either. So SEMO did come back and offer him a partial at the beginning of the summer. Or last spring, I guess. And so he decided he'd take that. And they told him when he took that partial that he would have the opportunity to work and earn a full ride. And they told him, I think they were honest with him. They told him that most likely probably wouldn't happen his freshman year, but could, if he worked hard, he could get it by the time next year started. And they said there's some rare instances where they do honor those as early as after the summer, depending on how the summer goes. And Jobe's one of those guys that I feel like if he just gets an opportunity and you get in front of the coaches, then he's going to impress them. And that's what happened. He was down there, had a great summer, competed hard, competed well. And then Coach Blackman from SEMO contacted me on a Monday, a couple Mondays ago, 3 Mondays ago, I guess now, and basically told me that they were going to offer him the full ride on that Friday. Told me to keep it a secret. So anyway, I called back on Wednesday, asked them if I could be down there. I just knew how special it was going to be for them. And he said, yeah. So he hit me in his office, and they brought Shelly, and Shandon was in there, his sister, and Zeke, his little brother, and they were all in there, and they brought me in the back. And Jobe saw me walk in there, and I think he knew something was up. But that was pretty special that they gave him a full ride. I know that means a lot to their family, and I think and I talked to Coach Tuke, and he was very impressed with Jobe so far, and he thinks that he I guess I don't know, his words were I guess we didn't know what Jobe was until he got down here, and that was. That's what I try to tell people, but word of mouth doesn't say much. Coaches probably hear that from a lot of high school coaches trying to sell their kids, but with Jobe, it was so much the truth. He's such a good kid, and he's going to give it everything he's got down there, and hopefully has a good career down there.
I always like to give them credit. They recruit this area well, and I think a large part of that was maybe Coach McDowell when he was there. He's not there any longer, but they have some North County kids, Farmington kids, Hillsboro, Sackman, and now Central. So this area here is represented well down there, and I think it's brought more SEMO awareness and fandom in this area because of that, and I'm always happy to see that.
I think most of those people that you mentioned, I know Civy and Nolan Reed and the Cunninghams, and even that quarterback that we played at Sackman that's down there, and then Brown from Hillsboro, those guys, going down and watching the scrimmage the other day, I saw all their families down there, and they bring friends. Those kids that are local like that can bring more people down there. I don't know why they wouldn't recruit the best players from our area. I think, Mizzou does it from a state level. I think SEMO can do it from a local level and get a lot more it's not like you're recruiting bad kids. I mean, those kids we're talking about are some of their better players. Brown was one of he had some good days for them. Nolan Reed looked really good in the scrimmage the other day. So I'm expecting those guys to not only be on the team, but perform well for them.
You talked about some of your staff and some of the guys taking some new roles. I always like to shout out the staff because they don't always get the love and they don't always get the bad press either. So talk about some of your staff and what their roles are within your staff.
Okay, so everybody's familiar with Coach Jones. He's been with me for 20-something years now, or 20 years, I guess, something like that. Obviously, he's been calling the defense. I've been calling the offense for a long time together, and we've done we've worked well together. And then this year, we're going to kind of take a back seat and let some of those younger guys do it and kind of help them along if we need to. And Coach Bridges will be calling the offense. That's Jake Bridges. And then Coach Jamison Strange will be calling the defense. Both of those guys played for us and graduated with us. Were on some really good football teams when they played, and now they've been on our staff. Both of them been on our staff since the state championship year. So, those guys we felt like are ready to step up and take a new role. Coach Bess, Donnie Bess, who played for us and played down at SEMO, he he's been doing our offensive and defensive line for the last handful of years. So feel really good about him. And then we got Coach Glenn back at the high school. He was a linebacker for us on those good 2017, 2016, 17 teams, I think. So he's back working with our linebackers, and then Coach Ronnie Calvert's been with us. He's the guy that we talk to up in the booth all the time. He's kind of like Coach Jones and I. He's got knowledge about everything. He knows everything on offense and defense, what everybody's supposed to be doing, and so he's taking care of that like he always has, and really a key part of our staff. And then I've kind of taken over some of the special teams duties because Coach Casey had done a lot of that last year. So, I'm kind of doing a little bit of that. And, we've got another volunteer and Sam Holloway on board. And then our 4 middle school coaches are outstanding. Coach Tyree, Coach Mitchell, Coach Poley, and Coach Fuzz Calvert, Riley Calvert. Those guys do a tremendous job at our middle school. And like I said, all these guys have played for us. It's kind of cool. Like I said, that win Friday was satisfying because I wasn't just proud of the players. I was proud of all those young coaches as well. I think it makes me feel really good if I decide to get out of here at the end of the year or next year. And I feel like the program's in good hands. And that, when this program come from where it was in the 90s to where it is now, I feel like it would be a shame for it to go backwards. And I don't see that happening anytime soon because I think all these guys are invested. They're relationship builders, which I think is first and foremost. When you want to be a good coach, I think you have to be a good relationship builder. They're knowledgeable, which I think is second, and third, they're passionate. So if they have those 3 things, it's hard not to be successful. And I think I think Coach Jones and I were like that. You lose a little bit of your energy the older you get, and those young guys, they still have all that energy that we used to have, and it's really starting to show.
Was it hard to sit back and not make the calls? Did you ever supersede any and say, no, we're going to run something different? Or was that easy to kind of watch the guys do what they do?
Well, it was different for sure. It just didn't feel the same, but I never really felt like I needed to interject anything because as the game was going on, everything that I thought Jake called a tremendous game, especially it was funny. There was several times he called plays, and I was like, man, I would have called something so similar to that in that situation. And I think for Brody Pigg being a first start quarterback, I thought the play calling was outstanding from an offensive side, just because I felt like he put Brody in great positions to not only make plays but not make bad plays. You know what I mean? And and we did have some penalties that we had to overcome, which sometimes with younger teams and inexperienced teams is harder to do. I mean, it's a little easier to do when we had that state championship squad when you could pretty much do whatever you wanted. But I also felt like Jameson did a great job on the defensive side. Obviously, we threw up a shutout. So, I think Coach Jones was proud of him too. And not just those two, but the other guys as well. Coach Calvert talking to those guys during the game and all those guys on the headsets and all those guys, with the iPad and getting stuff ready at halftime. And it was a well-oiled machine, and I just felt really good about it.
Did you get to see more of the game? Because when you're the coordinator and you're just so in tune with what your next step is going to be a lot of the times, did you get to see more of it, and did you get to enjoy it a little bit more?
I would say I probably enjoyed it a little bit more because I wasn't always thinking about the next play. So I did probably enjoy it a little bit more. But as far as like seeing more, I don't know. I felt like I've always been able to see stuff. Um, I have kind of a weird ability to be able to see stuff. I could almost go back after a game's over and tell you almost exact play, like all the way through the game, which is kind of weird. But there's been a couple games in my career where I couldn't do that, and I thought, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I was sick or what, but after games were over, I'd be like, man, dude, I don't even remember what the heck happened or how we got, how they scored. Like that never happens to me. It's happened a couple different times, but last night our Friday night. It was kind of cool just being able to watch it and not have to be thinking about what I was going to call the very next play or whatever. I still was doing it. I was still thinking about what I would do because I've been doing it that way for so long, but I wasn't actually doing it, if that makes sense.
Well, we're not trying to rush you to retirement or anything, but when that day does come, we'd love to have you on the Parkland Sports Live broadcast. I think you'd be awesome behind that. Have you ever done any of that?
No, but I went to, I guess that's what I went to college for. I went to college for broadcasting to start with. And then, I didn't know if I wanted to stay or, I wanted to stay close to the farm and I didn't know what kind of opportunities there were, I was thinking like big picture. I was thinking
Yeah.
Sports Center and stuff, obviously, uh, but I wanted to stay around local. And then that's when I just changed my mind and I decided I'd get into coaching. I knew I wanted to do something with sports because that was kind of a passion of mine. So, um, but yeah, I would love to do something like that. I think it'd be fun, especially not a full-time gig or anything, just doing it here and there and, keep you active in the sports, in sports area, in the area, and I think that'd be fun.
Well, you have the open invite here anytime. Last week, we talked to Coach Jones and asked him this question. I want to get your take as well. What would it take on you guys' as in for a North County Central game? I think a lot of people in the community want to see that. I know there's some old stuff in the past that maybe, stop that schedule rotation from happening, but what would it take for that to happen again?
I think, I think everybody would want it. I think the next cycle, I mean, obviously the next cycle is already set, and I don't think they're on there for the next cycle. So that would be the next 2 years. But after those next 2 years, if North County wants to play us, I'm sure we'd play them. I think it's silly not to play too. So I know we did start. I get why Central didn't play them. When we took North County off the schedule when the conference split like 2000 or whatever, I understand why Central didn't play them. I mean, North County was. It just wasn't even a game or whatever. And then we got the game back on the schedule, I guess, when we started getting good again in the early 2010s, 2012, 13, maybe 14. I know Coach McDowell was at North County at that time. And we got the game back on there for 2 years. And then, they decided not to play it anymore, which I understood. And then, but I do think that it would be a very competitive game. I think it would be a good game. So that's something that we've been discussing. With Coach Eckley at Farmington now, I don't know if that's a game that, obviously we would want to keep on our schedule with him at a Class 5 school. I think that's probably a little bit, it's probably one of those games that year after year is probably not going to be very conducive for us. Coach Eckley is one of the top coaches in the state. I don't even think it's close. So I think that's a game that maybe we could look to see if we could get that moved to North County instead of Farmington. But I'd like to keep for sure one of those teams on our schedule at all times, if
Did
not
you get
both.
did you get to see any of that week one matchup? I mean, it was pretty lopsided, pretty one-sided.
With Farmington,
Yes.
I did not get to see it yet. I talked to a few guys that they apparently, I don't know, Farmington must have played really fast and it was hard for North County to keep up. It's hard to prepare for that stuff, especially in a week one game. I mean, it's hard to prepare for that even when you know it's coming. And I'm sure Brian knew it was coming. I mean, that's what Coach Eckley does. But I mean, you just can't prepare for that stuff. I mean, and I know Valley does a lot of that stuff, but I don't even know if it's to the pace that Coach Eckley does it. And that's fun to watch as a fan, I know. So, he's going to have a lot of success at Farmington, I'm sure.
I'd say, we were there and I got to see it firsthand. I haven't like broke down any film or anything on it, but what was noticeable was, he platoons for the most part. I think a couple guys play maybe on both sides of the ball, but the players just seemed fresher than North County. I don't know if there was a skill level, a wide margin difference there, but it just seemed like the guys were fresher, which, makes sense. If you're playing fast and you have fresh guys coming in, that's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of stuff that they do is conducive to having success, and a lot of that is, you can play fresh, you can play fast, and you get the other team worn down. I mean, we saw it when we played Blair Oaks. I mean, Blair Oaks plays at a pace similar to that, and I mean it's a different type of offense, but it was still the pace is just different. And it wore us down. You play guys two ways, and you can see at the end of that game we were. I'm glad we didn't have to play another 2 or 3 minutes because it would probably went a different direction. But yeah, it's tough, and those coaches that can do that and execute it and do those things with those kids, it's pretty impressive. And I know we played fast when we had good teams, but those coaches seem to play fast no matter what, and they always have good teams. So I look up to those guys as peers, and I've talked to Eckley quite a bit over the years about advice, and just think he's an outstanding football coach.
Week 2, Central Rebels at Jefferson R7. Parkland Sports Live will be on the call. Chad Speaker, Mike Reeves, and we did bring Coach Stolzer out of retirement. He's going to be on the broadcast as well. Catch the live broadcast on the Parkland Podcast Facebook page and the Barn YouTube channel. Coach, we always appreciate your time. We're going to be there on Friday, and good luck to you.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Chad.